The monarchy didn't whisper this time. It roared, and the moment Meghan Markle stepped onto Dubai soil, dressed in royal jewels and flashing that calculated smile, something inside Buckingham Palace snapped forever. This wasn't a visit. This wasn't charity. This was war disguised as empowerment, and everyone inside those ancient palace walls knew exactly what it meant. Meghan Markle sparks unprecedented, because at precisely 7:46 a.m. on January 31st, 2026, the palace released a bulletin so cold, so surgical, it felt less like a statement and more like a verdict. The kind that ends bloodlines, fractures families, and redraws destinies. The message wasn't emotional. It wasn't dramatic. It was deliberate, clinical, and terrifying in its clarity. The institution would no longer absorb the fallout of individuals who refused to align with its discipline. And buried inside that seemingly bureaucratic language was the real bombshell. Archie and Lilibet were now the palace's priority, not Meghan. Not Harry, the children. Meghan Markle sparks unprecedented. Because while Meghan was dazzling cameras inside Dubai's Burj Al Arab, whispering about global empowerment and flashing heirloom jewels gifted by the crown itself, the palace wasn't applauding. It was watching. Watching closely. Watching angrily. Watching like a lion watches prey that has crossed into forbidden territory. Meghan Markle sparks unprecedented. That moment, that single calculated entrance, detonated panic across royal corridors. Because Meghan wasn't just attending an event, she was invoking royalty without permission, using titles without protection, and most shocking of all, she was alone. Harry wasn't there, Archie wasn't there, Lilibet wasn't there. She stood isolated, yet somehow claiming an empire that insiders say she had already abandoned. Behind the scenes, panic became fury. Princess Anne, the monarchy's most feared enforcer, reportedly stormed into Sandringham within hours of the Dubai footage surfacing. She wasn't emotional, she wasn't sympathetic, she was prepared. Carrying what insiders described as a dossier so devastating it could permanently alter the Sussex legacy. Inside that file was a 6-month trail of alleged defiance, commercial negotiations referencing royal bloodlines, branding discussions positioning Lilibet as a multi-generational Windsor symbol, private travel documentation listing Meghan under royal styling in foreign jurisdictions. Each piece wasn't just a violation, it was a declaration of independence, a signal that Meghan wasn't stepping away from the monarchy, she was attempting to recreate it in her own image. And that terrified them, because this wasn't rebellion anymore. This was competition. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, Harry wasn't defending her. He wasn't clarifying anything. He wasn't even present. Photographs surfaced showing him alone in Las Vegas, wandering through a private security summit like a ghost disconnected from his own life. His phone remained silent, his father's calls unanswered, his brother's warnings ignored. Meghan Markle sparks unprecedented. Those who saw him said the same thing. He looked hollow, like a man realizing too late that the ground beneath him was collapsing. Because while Harry drifted between cities and silence, Meghan was moving with precision. Power brokers, luxury consortiums, private dinners with individuals whose names never appear in public records, but whose influence shapes empires. Meghan Markle sparks unprecedented, and the palace knew. That's when the directives began. Not whispers, not warnings, directives. The first move was ruthless. Suspension of hereditary considerations surrounding Archie and Lilibet. The second move was colder, revocation of Meghan's foreign title usage privileges. And the third move was terrifying. A custodial oversight council. Not to punish Meghan, to monitor her. Inside those gates, conversations grew darker, because it wasn't just Meghan's Dubai appearance that terrified them. It was what the children represented, their lineage, their symbolic power, their vulnerability. Reports surfaced that Archie had experienced repeated relocations between Montecito, Vancouver, and Malibu, environments insiders described as unstable. Lilibet, only 4 years old, had reportedly referred to herself as the Princess of America America during playtime. Words that insiders say didn't originate from imagination, but from messaging absorbed around her. Meghan Markle sparks unprecedented. That sentence alone triggered alarms. Because identity wasn't supposed to be marketed. Identity wasn't supposed to be negotiated. Identity wasn't supposed to be leveraged. And yet, according to insiders, it was happening. Princess Catherine, usually the quiet observer, reportedly spoke with unusual firmness behind closed doors. Compassion, she allegedly said, could not replace protection. Stability had to come first. The children needed structure, routine, continuity, not cameras, not contracts, not branding. Meghan Markle sparks unprecedented. And then came the moment that changed everything. Inside that room, William asked a single question. Where are Archie and Lilibet tonight? No one answered immediately because no one could answer with certainty. That silence became the breaking point because suddenly this wasn't about Meghan's ambition. This wasn't about Harry's confusion. This wasn't about royal image. This was about children who existed between worlds, belonging everywhere and nowhere at the same time. And that's when the Crown activated something it hadn't used in nearly a century. The Custodial Sovereignty Clause, an emergency provision designed to protect royal minors living in prolonged instability. Meghan Markle sparks unprecedented. Inside that envelope, it wasn't a suggestion, it was a plan. A plan that could reshape Harry and Meghan's future forever. Because for the first time, the Crown wasn't reacting. It was intervening. And across the ocean, as Meghan laughed under Dubai chandeliers and Harry wandered through Nevada shadows, neither of them realized the truth already unfolding behind palace walls. This wasn't damage control anymore. This was extraction. This was containment. This was the monarchy deciding that survival mattered more than sentiment. And by the time Harry finally realized what was happening, it might already be too late. By the time Meghan's laughter echoed through Dubai's glittering skyline, the monarchy had already made its most dangerous decision in decades. They weren't waiting for explanations anymore. They weren't hoping for reconciliation. They were preparing for separation, permanent, surgical, and irreversible. Because behind the scenes, at exactly 9:30 a.m., inside the Privy Council chambers, a confidential memorandum began circulating, stamped with a classification so severe it was reserved for moments when the Crown believed its future was under threat. The subject line didn't mention Meghan. It didn't mention Harry. It mentioned the children. Archie, Lilibet. Emergency review. Meghan Markle sparks unprecedented. Inside that document was something far more terrifying than scandal. It was evidence, compiled quietly over months, now assembled into a single institutional roadmap. Reports of irregular schooling, emotional withdrawal markers, identity confusion triggered by dual narratives, one rooted in royal duty, the other rooted in celebrity branding. Meghan Markle sparks unprecedented. To the palace, this wasn't a media issue anymore. This was institutional liability. Princess Anne reportedly delivered the first verbal strike. Her words weren't loud. They didn't need to be. They are Windsor children. That sentence didn't sound like a statement. It sounded like a claim. Within hours, the palace activated what insiders called Operation Custodial Guard, a silent initiative designed not to confront Meghan publicly, but to reclaim stability privately. Prince William stepped forward immediately, assuming leadership with a focus that insiders described as personal, not political. Because this wasn't just about protecting heirs. This was about protecting blood. His message to advisors was chillingly direct. No child of royal blood will be raised where their legacy is traded for exposure. Behind closed doors, forensic audits began examining everything. Commercial media pitches, branding proposals, even alleged documentary discussions positioning Archie and Lilibet as California royals. Meghan Markle sparks unprecedented. Every discovery deepened the palace's fear. Because it wasn't just Meghan's Dubai appearance that worried them, it was the possibility that an entirely separate royal identity was being constructed outside their control. And then came the moment that shattered whatever fragile patience remained. Prince Harry finally called, not through lawyers, not through aides, directly. The call lasted exactly 12 minutes. 12 minutes that insiders say revealed everything. Halfway through, Harry's voice reportedly cracked. He repeated the same sentence over and over again. I didn't know. Those 4 words landed like a confession. Because suddenly, Harry wasn't a partner. He was a bystander. A father watching his own family unravel beyond his control. Inside Windsor Castle later that evening, 5 figures gathered around a mahogany table. King Charles, Princess Anne, Prince William, Princess Catherine, and the Lord Chamberlain. No cameras, no announcements, just a sealed dossier labeled Custodial Options S 2026. Princess Anne broke the silence first. We must plan for the next 50 years, not the next 5 headlines. That sentence sealed Meghan's fate. Because from that moment forward, the palace stopped viewing her as family. They started viewing her as risk. Princess Catherine's voice followed, softer but far more devastating. We cannot undo what has already happened, but we can give them stability. Her proposal wasn't revenge, it was replacement. A separate trust fund, private educational pathways, emotional support structures independent from Sussex finances. A future designed to exist without Meghan's influence. Meghan Markle sparks unprecedented. While the palace moved quietly, Meghan's world began collapsing loudly. Corporate partners froze communication. Luxury sponsors paused negotiations. Compliance reviews surfaced unexpectedly. Doors that once opened instantly suddenly stayed closed. Because the palace hadn't attacked her publicly, they had isolated her privately. And isolation is far more devastating than confrontation. Meanwhile, inside Montecito, Harry reportedly shattered emotionally. Friends described him pacing barefoot at dawn, staring at nothing, realizing too late that silence had consequences. William's message to him was brutal in its simplicity. You're still their father, but only if you act like one. Harry was offered one final opportunity. Return alone, step away, choose stability. He didn't accept. That refusal changed everything. Because on January 30th, the palace released its final declaration. Short, cold, unforgiving. All institutional ties to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex were permanently severed. The welfare, education, and development of Archie and Lilibet would now fall under Crown-appointed guardianship oversight. Meghan Markle sparks unprecedented. Buckingham Palace flag waves under grey skies, the gates sealed beneath it. This wasn't punishment. This was preservation. Because to the monarchy, survival wasn't emotional, it was strategic. And in that strategy, Meghan Markle was no longer a partner. She was a chapter. A chapter now closing. Across oceans, beneath chandeliers and headlines, Meghan continued forward, her public silence masking whatever private storm raged beneath. But inside palace walls, the verdict was already written. The monarchy had chosen the future. Not Harry, not Meghan, the children. And for the first time since Meghan Markle walked into royal life, the crown wasn't reacting to her moves. It had made its own. Permanent, final, unstoppable.